Hey friends, happy Thursday. I am so excited to be going live with you guys today to share all about creating delicious and nourishing balance bowls. So I have an incredible amount of ingredients in front of me. I just shared over in stories if you didn't see that. So I've got a lot of ingredients here to pull together at least 6, maybe 7 or 8 balance bowls with you guys today, so you can see how I put together this really simple, really delicious, and easy to prep ahead meal that we eat probably once a week and sometimes even more on the busy weeks. A balance bowl is a really great option to prep some ingredients ahead and mix and match throughout the week, especially if you're someone who likes to be really creative in the kitchen, but you might still want to do a little bit of prep ahead. Most of you know I love talking about meal prep and making meal prep work for you so that it's actually helping you bring more ease and simplicity into cooking throughout the week, and this is one of the ways that we do it in our family. Even if you don't prep ahead, it's also just a really great way to serve people in your family who have different needs by allowing them to put together their own bowl. So I talked about base meals last week and how I love base meals where you choose a base or you choose a theme and you have a bunch of different ingredients and you let whoever's in your family add the things that feel good to them, whether they want a different protein type or they have a food allergy and they might not want to put the dairy on top, or they just have different preferences than you. This is a great way to serve everyone in your family without it being a ton of extra work because you're making the things anyway. You might have to make 1 or 2 extra things or pull 1 or 2 extra things together, but it's not the same as making 2 different meals. So balance bowls are a really great meal option, for a really great base meal option. So before I dig into actually creating the balance bowls, let's talk about what a balance bowl is. So you might have heard of these talked about as power bowls or Buddha bowls, or I think those are the 2 kind of main names that I hear them called. I call them balance bowls because I'm all about balance, and we are all about balance here in the Healthy Balanced Mama community. I'm the host of the Healthy Balanced Mama podcast, and balance is just kind of my MO. And so for me, there's 2 reasons why I call it a balance bowl. First of all, because it inspires balance in the way that it is very nourishing for our bodies, but it allows us to mix and match ingredients that are going to be really satisfying to us. A little bit later, I'm going to talk to you guys about the 3 flavor factors and what really factors in to making something taste really good. Because a lot of us don't know where to go when it comes to creating meals that are delicious and satisfying, and I want you to feel really confident in the kitchen, and that's one of the ways that you can start with that. But they are delicious, they are nutritious, they're satisfying. You can make them work for you and add a bunch of different ingredients that feel good, or maybe just a few ingredients that feel good for you and that taste good for you. They're also a balance of nutrients as well, which is important for our overall health. Blood sugar balance is one of the most important things that we can do to stabilize our hunger levels, our mood, and our energy throughout the day. So this is one way that you can do that in a way that's simple and not stressful. So I'm all about balance and taking stress out of cooking and eating. So that's the balance bowl, or I guess that's the why behind the balance bowl. What goes in a balance bowl? So for every balance bowl you create, you're going to want some sort of a base. So I have a few bases in front of me here that I like to use on the regular, so I'll share those with you guys in just a minute. You want some sort of a base. It could be a grain, it could be roasted vegetables. Those are typically most often, or it could be a salad green too if you want to make a balance bowl that's got a base of leafy greens in there too. That's also an option. So usually some sort of a grain. You could also do cauliflower rice if you like cauliflower rice for some extra fiber, or mix that in with some regular rice as well, or a roasted vegetable. Today I'm going to be utilizing some cooked sprouted quinoa. I have some rice that I can't really pick up right now because it's hot. I've got some rice that's cooked up, and then I also have some roasted sweet potatoes, and then back in the fridge, I can't take them out. I've got salad greens back there. I'll get them after. So those are kind of my 4 bases that I'm working off of today. And what's beautiful is that even with those 4 bases, if you utilize the same ingredients, you still have 4 different meals. Or you can use the same base and use different toppings and have completely different meals. This is the beauty of cooking maybe 1 base ahead of time, and then you can make a few different meals throughout the week. This is great if it's just you cooking for yourself during the week and you don't want to be eating the same things over and over again. You want variety, but you don't want to be spending hours in the kitchen because it's just you, or maybe just you and your partner, or whatever your situation is. It also works with the family because we do it with our family of 4. I've got 2 little kiddos. If you are new to being here in the Healthy Balanced Mama community, I didn't even introduce myself, but I think we're past that now. But I'm Kris. I'm a holistic health coach, a trained chef, an intuitive eating counselor, and a mama of two. So we use this for our family, and we eat these bowls at least once a week. So number one is some sort of a base. Number two is you're going to want some sort of a protein. This is a protein that works for you and your body and your preference for that day. So the couple of proteins that I have today are some rotisserie chicken, and then for some plant-based proteins over here, I also have some chickpeas. I oftentimes like to roast chickpeas, but just in the interest of time, I've just got canned, rinsed, cooked chickpeas, and then I've got some cooked black beans there too. You can use whatever proteins you like, plant-based, meat-based, fish. I love making balanced bowls with salmon. That's a great option as well. So you need some sort of a base, you need some sort of a protein. Protein is the most satiating nutrient, so you need some sort of a protein source in your balance bowl to actually keep you full. Veggies are great, and that's the next thing I'm going to talk about, and they're kind of the heart of the bowl, but you really do need some sort of a protein in there to keep you full, because it's important that we actually feel full from our balance bowl. So number one is your base, because you want something to put it on. Number two is you want some sort of a protein. And then number three is fill up half that bowl with some veggies. Veggies are, like I said, they are the heart of the balance bowl. They are what adds a ton of fiber, a ton of nutrients. Here's the deal. I want you to eat veggies that you love in a preparation that you love. There are no rules when it comes to vegetables in any way, but there's no rules when it comes to vegetables in a balance bowl. I'm going to talk about the 3 flavor factors, like I said, in a little bit. But you can have a mix of cooked veggies and raw veggies, depending on what works for you. I've got a ton of veggies in front of me today. I've got roasted broccoli. I've got roasted Brussels sprouts. I just roasted those alongside each other, as well as the sweet potatoes in the oven this morning, and they were done. I have green beans I prepped earlier this week. I've got shredded carrots and some shredded cabbage. I've got tomatoes and cucumbers, which I guess are technically a fruit. And then, I've got sun-dried tomatoes as well. And then on the fruit side of things, I also have some chopped apples, which I categorize them in kind of the same category as veggies because they're produce, they're fiber-rich, they're nutrient-rich. I don't use a ton of fruit on my balance bowls, but you're totally welcome to in the summer times. I will often add something like sliced peaches or sliced strawberries. You could add dried fruit. That is something that I like to utilize, and I'm going to use that a little bit later in one of my kind of Moroccan-inspired bowls. So those are kind of the veggies. So you want some sort of a base, some sort of a protein, you want some sort of a veggie, and then you want a flavor boost. So typically this is some sort of a sauce, and then maybe something to add some extra flavor through the different flavor factors. And I'm going to talk about that in 1 second, I promise. But sauces, okay. So what is going to take your dish from average, okay? Because quinoa and broccoli and chicken, I mean, it's tasty, especially if you roast the broccoli and you get rotisserie chicken or the chicken is like flavored really nice. But you need something else to make it really satisfying, right? Fat is really important for satisfaction, for mouthfeel. That one of the first things we learn in culinary school is that fat is really important in meals, so that it's actually really important in nutrition too, because it helps us to absorb nutrients, but it also helps us to have the right mouthfeel, and so that the food is actually really satisfying for us. That wasn't the best and most eloquent description, but just know fat is satisfying, both physically and culinary wise. So having a sauce on top, especially a sauce that's got some healthy fats in it, is something that will round out your dish. So a couple of the sauces that I have here today, I have a homemade pesto. Pesto is so super easy to make homemade, you guys. This is something that I'll share a tutorial for this really soon because this is an almond pesto, because pine nuts are expensive and almonds are just as delicious. This is almonds, basil, lemon juice, garlic, olive oil, sea salt, and oftentimes I add a couple handfuls of spinach, but I wanted to save it for my smoothies, so I didn't do spinach this time. That's all that's in my homemade pesto. And pesto is so versatile. It lasts quite a bit of time in the fridge because it is packed with healthy fats, and healthy fat is a natural preservative. So it lasts for a while, and you can use it on pasta or zucchini noodles or on top of your balance bowls. I've also got a peanut sauce over here. Peanut sauce is another one of those things that is so super easy to make and delicious and just takes your dish to the next level. So either of those things. So, I was talking about the basic, like say you just put quinoa and roasted broccoli and chicken in a bowl. That's kind of meh. But then when you add something on top of it, like your pesto or your peanut sauce, that's a completely different dish. And you just use the same basic ingredients, but you added something different on top. The next sauce I've got is my favorite sauce of all time, and that is tahini sauce. This one's actually a bit thick. I might need to add a little bit of water to kind of actually drizzle it on top. But tahini sauce, again, really simple, really delicious in Mediterranean food, in Middle Eastern food, and it goes with a lot of kind of those fresh flavors of Mediterranean style food. And this is literally just tahini sauce, lemon juice, a little bit of olive oil, sea salt, cumin, and then water to thin it all out. So I think garlic, if I didn't say that already. You can use fresh garlic if you like it a little bit spicier, or you can use garlic powder. So those are the 3 homemade sauces. And then when it comes to store-bought sauces, I am not opposed to store-bought sauces as well. You could drizzle a buffalo sauce onto your bowl. You could drizzle a barbecue sauce onto your bowl. You could drizzle, I've got salsa here. Salsa is a great sauce. You could use guacamole. The sauce is going to make your bowl, and it's not only gonna add satisfaction, but it's gonna add a ton of flavor to it as well. So the other things that you can add to it, and this is where the flavor factors come in, are ingredients that are going to round out the flavor factors of your meal. So there are 3 factors that play into making a food taste delicious. They're the 3 T's, so you can remember them by that. Number 1 is taste, and this is something I will teach a whole lesson on taste, because taste in it is a whole lesson in and of itself. There are 5 main tastes that our taste buds taste, and we like, as humans, we like 2 things when it comes to flavors. We like contrast, and we like balance. And so all about balance, right? Bringing that balance back into the balance bowl. We like contrast and we like balance. So we don't want things that all feel the same. We don't want things that all taste the same. Imagine a dish that's just too salty because there's too many salty elements on it. A little bit of saltiness is good, but too much is overwhelming. The same thing with sour, the same thing with bitter. So the 5 tastes, if you don't already know, are sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and umami, which is the savory type flavor, which you get from things like meat or soy sauce or mushrooms. There's a lot of different ways you can get umami. It's kind of like the mystery flavor, but it adds a lot of oomph to your meals. So like I said, we'll go into taste specifically a little bit more, but the goal here is just to know the 5 different tastes and know that if it feels like something is missing from your dish, start with going, okay, is there some sort of a fat on here to actually add to the satisfaction of the dish? So maybe you want to add a sauce to it. And then the second thing that you can ask is, okay, maybe it's that my flavors aren't really balanced and everything kind of tastes the same. Everything's kind of bland. So if you've got, I'm using the example of like the quinoa, and the broccoli is roasted and it's got some sea salt on it, so it has a little bit of a kind of a heartier, savory flavor to it. But imagine it was just like quinoa and steamed broccoli and chicken. Like that's pretty boring in and of itself. All those ingredients I like, they're delicious. You might like them, you might not. But adding something to it is what is going to elevate it and make it really delicious. And that's what makes it that balance bowl. Not only are you adding that healthy fat to the top to round it all out, but you're actually adding some flavor to it as well to help it feel more satisfying and just more delicious overall. Satisfaction is physical, and then it's also emotional. You want it to taste good, but then it needs to be satisfying to your body as well, right? So the 3 flavor factors. Number 1 is taste. So knowing those 5 elements of taste, which we'll talk about more in the future, but just knowing the 5 elements of taste and knowing that if your dish feels like it's missing something, it might just need a little bit of balance from a different flavor. So if it's extra salty, it might need something a little bit sweet or a little bit sour to balance it out. If it's extra bitter, it might need a little bit of sweetness to balance it out. If it's a little bit it's not salty, I already said salty, but if it's a little bit spicy, which is something else I'll talk about in a second, then you might need a little bit of sweetness or a little bit of sour to round that out. Do you see where once you start to kind of get to know what the different tastes are, you can start to balance things out. And this is how you become a great from scratch cook. So you're able to put things together without needing a recipe and without feeling overwhelmed in the kitchen by all of the different flavors. It's just about knowing the 3 flavor factors and the 5 tastes. So 3 flavor factors. Number 1 is taste. Number 2 is texture. So remember, I said our mouths, our taste buds really like contrast and balance. So balance most of the time comes with the different flavor profiles. And obviously it also comes in the meal as a whole. But we're kind of talking about like this is your one bowl. Knowing the different tastes, but then also contrast in textures as well. You don't want everything to feel the same, okay? So, and you also don't want it to look the same either. If everything in your bowl is kind of squishy, I know that's like it's a weird I guess, comparison. But if everything in your bowl, like imagine you put some white rice, which is my preferred rice. I just like white rice over brown. So imagine you put like white rice and some mashed sweet potato, because that's a veggie, right? And then some like ground meat in a bowl. Okay. There you've got the basic components of a balanced bowl. You don't really have a sauce. And then even if you put a sauce on top, everything is sort of kind of like squishy and the same texture. It probably feels like it's missing something. It needs a little bit of a bite. It needs a little bit of a crunch. It needs a little bit of something. So oftentimes when your dish feels like it's missing something, it's one of three things. It's either it's missing the balance of flavors, it's missing a contrast of some sort, either a contrast in flavors or a contrast in textures. So that'd be the second thing to ask. Okay, how is my balance of flavors? Do I have a contrast in textures? So for contrasting textures, you can do something like add something that's a little bit crunchy on top. I've got some nuts here. I've got some peanuts that go really well with the peanut sauce. I've got some pumpkin seeds. I've got, sun-dried tomatoes have a little bit of kind of a chewy flavor on top of a Mexican style bowl. Just some like crushed tortilla chips are delicious on top of kind of a Mexican style bowl or a taco salad. And adding a mix of fresh veggies with roasted veggies, making sure your roasted veggies have a little bit more bite to them and they're not just squishy. And then that means that, and I'll talk about roasted veggies in the future because I've had that question before. How do I make my roasted veggies crispy? Just that contrast in texture. So whether it's something crunchy or something creamy or something with a little bit more bite, it's really just using those describing words about the things on your plate and going, what does it feel like it's missing? And you will learn this over time. Sorry, the garage door is opening over there if it's a little bit loud. So number one, taste. Number two is texture. And number three is temperature. And I just brought this up a little bit as well when it comes to the mix of hot and cold. So temperature is twofold. Temperature is both the actual heat of the dish or the dish component. So like my rice over here is hot, but my quinoa I prepped earlier. So my quinoa is actually kind of cold right now and I could heat it up before I make a bowl, but maybe I don't want a bowl that has a hot base. Maybe I want a bowl that has a cold base. So maybe I want to use quinoa that's, been cooked and cooled. Or maybe I want to use the salad greens or my fridge, which is why I'm pointing to my fridge. Maybe I want to use salad greens or something like that as my base instead. And then maybe I want to put something hot on top of it. It can be really appealing to the taste buds to have differing temperatures. But temperatures isn't just the actual temperature of the food, like the hot rice or like the cold cucumber. Actually, cucumber is a great example because it can also be the perceived temperature of a food. So chili powder, whether it's hot or cold, is still a little bit spicy. Or cayenne's a better example because chili powder can be varying depending on what ingredients are in it. Cayenne pepper, no matter if it is hot sitting on the stove or it is cold in the refrigerator, yes, it would actually change your taste buds perceptions if it was cold versus hot and you tasted it, but it would still be spicy either way, which is heat, which our bodies recognize as heat. Where there are other ingredients that our bodies recognize as cold or cooling. So cucumber is a great example of that. Mint is another really good example of that. Yogurt, even though yes, typically we store yogurt in the fridge, so it would actually be cold, is also very cooling. So thinking about the different temperatures of food as well is also going to help you balance out your flavors. If you've ever tasted a dish that's just too spicy, it's because there's nothing to balance out this spice. Coming back to that balance, coming back to that contrast. You need something to balance it out. So if you feel like it's too spicy, or if you feel like it's too cold and it kind of needs a little bit of something, it might be because you've got like cold quinoa and raw cucumbers and a yogurt sauce, like maybe a dill yogurt sauce, and then like some cold chicken, and you're like, I feel like it needs something. Maybe we could add some roasted veggies on there or something, and or maybe heat up the base, or just make it a little bit warmer to kind of balance that out. So those are our three flavor factors: taste, texture, and temperature. This is a great place to start when you're learning to become a from-scratch cook, when you want to become a better cook, and you're trying to figure out how to put things together, just knowing those three things. And we will go more deeply into the 5 different tastes in the future, because I could literally talk about that for an hour, and I have when I teach cooking classes. We oftentimes go in sequence, and my students kind of pick the dishes, which my students are you guys now, so you're picking the dishes that I'm cooking, or I'm picking the dishes that I'm cooking depending on the week. But we will go through a sequence, and we will always talk about spices in the beginning. So we talk about the 3 flavor factors, but we also talk about spices and the actual different tastes at the beginning, because it's very important to know the different tastes in order to be able to start putting things together. So on that note, let's start putting things together. Okay, so we know, I have some notes in front of me, so I'm not here for a bazillion hours. These are gonna come together quickly because all of my stuff is prepped ahead. And that's where I encourage you, if you do wanna include balance bowls into your life, it can be really helpful to just have 1 or 2 elements of the bowl already prepped ahead. And once you have one element, you can mix and match it with the other ingredients to make it a completely different meal, which is what I am all about. I'm all about variety and making meals that are really delicious, but don't take me a ton of time, because I'm a busy mama, I'm a business owner, my husband's a business owner, we've got 2 kiddos, I homeschool, I do all of the things, and I honestly do not always do it well. Actually, a lot of the time I don't, but you know what I do well? I do a little bit of light meal prep to get our meals on the table. That's something I do well, and I feel like that's a win, and that's what I want to pass on to you guys. It's so important to just have some sort of a routine with your food. Should not be restrictive. It should be freeing. It should make you feel like, oh, I can actually get dinner on the table and it's actually going to taste delicious, and it's going to be more than just quinoa, steamed broccoli, and chicken, because that's boring. So let's elevate it, okay? And hey, and no knocking it if you really do just like quinoa and steamed broccoli and chicken, that's cool. But let's elevate it. Like, let's add a little bit of something to it, so the next time you eat it, it's super delicious and you're like, wow, I didn't realize that quinoa and broccoli and chicken or chickpeas or whatever you eat could be that delicious. All right, so let's make some bowls here, you guys. I probably have enough ingredients for about 30 different bowls, but what should we start with? Let's go ahead and start with our base of quinoa. So I'm gonna make 3 different bowls. I've got my notes in front of me with quinoa. So you can see all of the different things you can do with one simple base. So I get the sprouted quinoa already sprouted. I'm not that fancy. I do not sprout my own quinoa. I mean, it'd be nice if I did, but I don't. I get it from Thrive Market, and I cook it in the rice cooker just like any other grain. That's where I cook all my grains, in the rice cooker. And I don't think I knew that you can cook any grain in the rice cooker until I married my husband, who is half Japanese, and they really only cook rice in the rice cooker, but I didn't even have a rice cooker before then. And when I realized you can cook literally any grain in the rice cooker, I was like, wow, that's easy. All right, so I'm gonna start with a base of quinoa. So how much do you put in a bowl? You put as much as sounds satisfying to you. We don't need a ton. I want this to fit into 3 different bowls, but it's as much as feels good for you. A good rule of thumb for all ingredients is usually somebody's hand is about proportionate to their body. I'm not telling you to portion control or anything like that. That's just a general, like, my husband's hands are bigger than mine. He eats more than me. My kids are smaller and they eat a little bit smaller. But most of the time, as a family, I don't put the bowls together. We put everything out on the table, and our kiddos pick and choose what they want. My husband picks and chooses what he wants. All 4 times he goes back for food. And that's the beauty of the balance bowl, is you prepare the ingredients. I get asked all the time my recommendations for like kids health and kids nutrition, and I love Ellen Satter's work. And her big thing is the parent provides the food and the child decides, and it helps kids kind of learn to be intuitive with their eating. And I love that. So that's what we do a lot of the time with our kids with meals. So, all right, I've got quinoa in 3 different bowls. So let's make 3 completely different balance bowls using just quinoa as the base. I'm gonna put the quinoa away. All right, let's start. Let's do the one that I talked about, okay? Let's do some roasted broccoli. Got my utensils down here. So we've got our quinoa. Let's add in some roasted broccoli. I love roasted broccoli. It just makes, I love broccoli in general, but it just makes it taste so good. And I will tell you, my 2-year-old was helping me put all this stuff together this morning. Some of it I had prepped ahead and some of it I prepped for today. And she was like, Mama, I have one? And I'm like, absolutely you can have one. Like my kids, it's like 9 a.m. and she's like, I have one? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And she ended up eating like half the tray of roasted broccoli. And I'm like, I can't be mad at you, kid, because you're eating roasted broccoli at 9 a.m. So happy breakfast. All right, so let's see, roasted broccoli. I love putting either chicken or chickpeas on there as well. So let's go ahead and for this one, let's do chickpeas. So I'm gonna use my hands because It's my food. I would normally use roasted chickpeas for this one. I don't typically just use plain chickpeas, but like I said, just kind of in the interest of time and convenience right now, we're using chickpeas, or we're using just plain canned chickpeas. And then let's add a little bit of contrast to this bowl. Let's do, oh, you know what would be really good? A little bit of, I would either do sun-dried tomatoes or regular tomatoes to kind of add a little bit of acidity to it. I think that would be really good. And I'm also gonna add some tahini to that as well. Or you know what, oh, I can't even decide, you guys. This is hard. I love food. All right, we're gonna add, no, I don't want tomatoes on this one. We're gonna do tahini sauce, because I definitely want tahini sauce on top of there. I'm gonna add some tahini sauce. There's a little bit of a bite to the chickpeas, especially if they're roasted, as well as the roasted broccoli. So we don't need a ton of kind of textural contrast in this one. It doesn't have a ton of sweetness to it. So I think would be really, really delicious is if I go ahead and I want to add something a little bit sweet. So I am gonna add some of these sun-dried tomatoes to it. And I just know that that is just gonna make it so delicious. The other thing that I love adding to this is the sweet potatoes, but I'm using those as a base for another dish. So I'm gonna go with this one. Okay, so for this one, I've just got chickpeas, sun-dried tomatoes, roasted broccoli, quinoa, and a tahini sauce. So delicious, so satisfying. You could add some chopped almonds on top of that to add a little bit of contrast and texture if you wanted to. That would be really delicious as well, but that's super easy. You saw how quick that came together. No big deal. That's one dinner. Let's make a Greek bowl, because as I'm looking at my tomatoes over here, I'm going, ooh, a Greek bowl would be really delicious. I've got feta in the fridge. Let's do it. Let's do some feta. Let's do chickpeas would go really well with this as well. So let's do chickpeas. Let's do 2 chickpea and quinoa bowls. Look at this, chickpeas and quinoa, but we are going a completely different route. Yeah, we're still kind of in the Mediterranean sphere for this one. It is what it is. What would be really delicious on top of this is like a cucumber yogurt sauce, like a tzatziki. I don't know what's happening with this. But because I'm going to use a ton of contrasting textures and flavors in this one, I've got my chickpeas, I've got my quinoa, I've got some feta, which is going to add some saltiness to it, and I'm also going to add some Kalamata olives. I should go in order. I should have put veggies in first, but I'll do that. I put a bunch of feta in because I love feta. I'm going to add some tomatoes to this. So we've got the hot quinoa, which is cold now, but typically I would serve it hot. We've got the cold cucumbers, the cooling cucumbers. We have the cold tomatoes, or if you like sun-dried, you could do the sun-dried tomatoes as well. I've got the salty feta. I'm also going to use the kind of briny, the salty Kalamata olives. And I don't even need a sauce. You could. A sauce would be great on top of this, but I don't think you need it because you're already adding the Kalamata olives on top of that as well as the feta, and it's going to mix together, and it's going to make a really beautiful sauce in and of itself. And this is going to be so tasty. You guys, there's so many options here. I can't even handle myself. This is probably going to be my dinner tonight, but we'll see. Okay, so bowl number 2, a really delicious quinoa and chickpea Greek bowl. But hey, you could add chicken too if you'd rather have chicken. So I've got quinoa and chickpeas in both of those bowls, but very different flavors. And maybe similar in terms of being kind of Mediterranean style bowls. We're going to get to some very different ones, but still pretty similar as well. So let's do a quinoa, still very different as well. Let's do a quinoa pesto bowl. So I love using green beans, and because I just find green beans go so well with pesto. I think they're really, really tasty. So I'm going to use green beans. So I just have some blanched green beans here. In my meal prep course, I actually teach you how to saute, how to steam, how to roast vegetables, because I get a lot of questions about that as to how to actually prepare vegetables so they taste delicious. There's a lot of different ways you can prepare vegetables that taste delicious. It's really about what tastes delicious to you. So I'm going to add a whole bunch of chicken over here, and I've got my green beans and I've got my quinoa. And you know what, guys? I said I wasn't going to use the sweet potatoes, but I feel like it needs a little bit of sweetness. Okay, this is how I develop my bowls. This is how I put them together. I go, okay, it needs a little something. I want to go ahead and give it a little bit of sweetness, so I'm going to add some sweet potatoes over here too. So I've got some quinoa, I've got some sweet potatoes, I've got to get a paper towel. So I've got some sweet potatoes, I've got some quinoa, I've got some chicken, I've got some green beans over there, and I'm gonna top it with my homemade pesto, which is a little bit salty, a little bit savory. So it'll be really delicious, kind of almost like a California style bowl. I wouldn't say it's necessarily Italian, but how delicious is that? Sun-dried tomatoes would go really well in this too for a little bit of sweetness, because whenever you dry or cook something, it gets sweeter, just like dried fruit. Look at how yummy that is. Okay, so we have three kind of Mediterranean style bowls. I didn't even intend on that. That's kind of what we got going on here. We've got three Mediterranean style bowls. Let's mix it up and let's do something a little bit different with the next bowl. Let's get out the rice. So rice is beautiful because rice can be used in so many different ways. It's a great base for everything. Use the rice that is hotter than I expected. Use the rice that you love and that's going to be most satisfying to you, okay? So I like white rice. I'd rather eat my whole grains in other places. I just don't really like brown rice, and I realized that a couple years ago, and I was like, I'm gonna stop making myself eat brown rice. I like it in certain instances. I posted a balanced bowl to my page, my feed yesterday, and because the brown rice is kind of really hearty with like the soft eggplant, and if you guys saw that one, I'm not gonna be making that one today because I don't have roasted eggplant, but the sweet pomegranates and the crunchy pecans and the soft eggplant, they just kind of works, but that's one of the few instances I typically like the white rice. And I go with it because I want my food to be satisfying. I know I can get my fiber in other places and those nutrients in other places. So let's make a couple rice bowls over here. I'm gonna have to go get more bowls because we're making lots of bowls today. All right, so I'm gonna put rice in 3 bowls and we're gonna make them different. Let's see. So for my first bowl, what do you say? We should do like an Asian style theme? I think that feels good. So one of my favorite bowls to do is taking the rice, but cooking it with half coconut milk, half water, and then you've got coconut rice. And there's a local restaurant to us that makes this really delicious salmon with coconut rice, and they actually do it's fried spinach, but I just use sauteed, and it's very similar. I just let it get really crispy. It's such a good combination. It's so good. And that's one of my favorite bowls to make as well. So if you do half coconut rice, this is just plain, this is basmati rice. You can use whatever rice you want. So I've got some plain rice in here. So let's make 3 very different bowls with this one. Let's start with kind of a Thai inspired bowl. So I'm gonna start with some, you know what I've got? Here's what we'll start with. My freezer back here. I've got not my freezer, it's my mom's freezer. She lets me use her house for these videos because it's easier than my kitchen. All right, don't try this at home, kids. I talk about knife safety all the time, and then I open packages with knives. So this is clearly frozen. So we are gonna pretend that I took this edamame and I defrosted it first. But it's fine because when I go ahead and eat this, then it's gonna be defrosted. So it's not a big deal to me that it's frozen right now. So we're gonna go ahead and put some edamame in there because edamame is a delicious plant-based protein. You could also use chicken for this very same meal here, but I like the idea of doing some edamame. We're doing kind of a Thai style bowl over here. I'm gonna do some sliced cucumbers in this one. Got that kind of cooling effect to these sliced cucumbers. I'm going to add some red cabbage to it for a little bit of crunch. So you see how we have the contrast of the hot rice in the bottom with kind of the cooler, I've got some shredded carrots, the cooler vegetables on the top over here. So yummy. I love cilantro. So I'm gonna do a little bit of the fresh cilantro. This is a very light and fresh bowl, but we're gonna make it a little bit more hearty with, the sweet potatoes would be good on that too, with some peanut sauce. I love a good peanut sauce. This one's a little bit thick. That's okay. I think that's, yeah. All right. So the carrots add a little bit of sweetness, and so does the peanut sauce. And we've got what would be warm edamame. And I promise I have all this stuff planned out. I just left the edamame in the freezer. and this delicious peanut sauce. And then let's add, everything's kind of crisp and fresh. So let's add something, and then the edamame is kind of soft, so let's add something a little crunchy with some chopped peanuts. So we're gonna add some peanuts to the top of that. And there we go. We have a Thai style balance bowl. Super, super delicious. All right, let's do something even more different. And let's go ahead and do kind of a Mexican style bowl, okay? Or like a Tex-Mex style bowl. I'm gonna go ahead and start with black beans. We haven't used black beans yet. So let's start with some black beans. I've got my rice already in here. We're gonna put a nice hefty portion of black beans in there. And I know I'm gonna want the contrast with the black beans and the rice of something a little bit crunchier. So I'm gonna do a little bit of red cabbage. I love red cabbage. It kind of, if you've ever had tacos with red cabbage, you could also do an actual slaw in here too. And I know that it's gonna be all kind of mixed up with the other ingredients, but it adds a nice like kind of crisp freshness to it. It's also really delicious to put cucumber on top of these bowls as well. And I have some corn that I'm not gonna put on right now, but the corn would be really delicious on there too. You could add some fresh tomatoes or fresh cucumber on there. I've got the fresh cabbage, so I'm gonna leave that as is, I think. Yeah, I'm gonna leave that as is. So to add a little bit more contrast on this bowl, I'm gonna add some creamy avocado. So I have some nice ripe avocado over here. So I'm gonna add some creamy avocado, and that's gonna kind of create a little bit of a sauce when I serve it all up together. Okay, I've got some delicious creamy avocado there. I would definitely do some corn if I hadn't left it in the freezer, and I don't know how that's gonna it'll defrost, but I'm gonna do that. And then I'm going to, so I've got my black beans, I've got my rice, I've got my cabbage. I'm gonna add some cilantro to the top of that. I love adding, you could add cheese or sour cream. I love, I'm gonna butcher the name. I'm sorry, you guys. Any of you who speak Spanish. Cotija? I don't know if that's right. Kind of like a fresh Mexican cheese. Feta is very similar, so I'm gonna add a little bit of feta. Those of you who are purists are probably mad at me right now, and I'm sorry, but it's good. It's tasty. It's delicious. To add a little bit of saltiness to that. So we've got the creaminess, got a little bit of saltiness over here, but you could use whatever. You could use like a shredded Mexican style cheese. You could actually get the cotija cheese. Please somebody tell me how to say that correctly. You can send me a DM because I always appreciate correct pronunciation. We're gonna do some salsa on top, and that is going to be the sauce for this one because delicious. And that cheese plus the salsa and the avocado on top. Oh my gosh, this is gonna be so good. I can't choose which one's gonna be my dinner. Well, I know one's gonna be my dinner and one's gonna be my lunch tomorrow, so. What else I would love to add too, what would be really delicious, I'm gonna go ahead and do it, is for some crunch. Like I mentioned, those tortilla chips would be really delicious for a crunch, and then pumpkin seeds are also really, really tasty on top to add a little bit of crunch too, and pumpkin seeds go really well with any sort of like Mexican food. So we have kind of like a Tex-Mex kind of style bowl here with the salsa and the cheese and the avocado and the black beans. Another veggie bowl over here as well. I'm gonna put these over here. So tasty, you guys. So let's go ahead and I'm gonna do kind of a roasted veggie fall kind of style bowl over here with this other rice I've got. So I am going to add in some more of my roasted broccoli, because you guys know I love my roasted broccoli over here. And then I'm gonna add my roasted Brussels sprouts. I'm gonna do it like this because I haven't used my roasted Brussels sprouts yet. I'm gonna do roasted Brussels sprouts. I am gonna do some chicken for a little bit of protein over here. I am going to do some pecans. Yeah, I'm gonna do some chopped pecans because that sounds really, really tasty. So I'm gonna add some pecans over here for a little bit of autumn flavor and a little bit of that crunch because we've got the soft rice, the slightly crunchy veggies, but it's nice to have like a little bit of crunch from the nuts there. And to add a little bit of sweetness, I'm gonna grab some dried cranberries over here. So for this one, I don't have a sauce necessarily for this one. I would probably top this myself with the tahini sauce because I really like the tahini sauce, but some sort of a lemon vinaigrette would be really delicious as well. But because you've got the pecans and the roasted veggies and the chicken, these are Trader Joe's orange cranberries, dried cranberries. They're really tasty. I think this is good. That this would be a really beautiful, delicious, hearty, kind of autumn-inspired meal right there, even though there's no sauce with that. So I've got the rice underneath. I've got some pecans. I've got the chicken. I have the Brussels sprouts, and then I have the roasted broccoli in there. Delicious. Okay, I want to make like 2 more bowls with you guys because I've got a ton of ingredients here, and I'm going to do them with the base of the sweet potatoes. So let me go ahead and grab. Okay, what time are we looking at? All right, we're already at 2:15. So maybe we'll just do one more bowl. Let's do a Moroccan inspired bowl. We'll do one more bowl, and then you guys can tell me what you would make with this combination of ingredients. I would love to hear from you. Shoot me a DM. Send me, you can put a comment up now if you'd like. I will try to see them. I'm not always the best at seeing them when we're live. But let me know now, or shoot me a DM if you're watching this later. I would love to know what you would use this combination of ingredients for and how you would mix and match these into a different meal. So let's do kind of Moroccan style. So I am starting with some roasted sweet potatoes over here. And then I'm gonna add some grilled artichoke hearts. So good. These are a little bit big. I probably should have. Cut them up ahead of time. So if I were you, I would cut them up ahead of time. I'm gonna add chickpeas to this one. I love chickpeas. Let me see. Yeah, I'm gonna do chickpeas. It's gonna have a lot of nice textures to it. I am going to do some golden raisins to add a little bit of sweetness, because one of the most, and I didn't even mention, the sweet potatoes are roasted with just a little bit of cinnamon and cumin, so it works really well with the kind of Moroccan style flavors. Moroccan food is really known for its kind of like sweet and spicy contrast. So I'm gonna add some of those golden raisins. For something a little bit fresh, I am going to add some cucumber. And I'm also going to add some green olives for something a little bit salty. Because the marinated artichokes are, they're grilled artichokes. They're from Trader Joe's, by the way. Most of these things are from Trader Joe's. That is gonna be really, really delicious. They're not super salty is what I meant to say. And it's gonna be a really delicious combination with the olives and the golden raisins. Oh my gosh, so tasty. And then, you could also go ahead and, I'm looking at my carrots would be really good in this too. You could also add some shredded carrots in there. You could switch up the chicken, the chickpeas, and do chicken instead. This one might be different than bowls that you typically create, and so if you are like, that kind of seems different and not like something I'm into, that's cool. Start with what you know. Start with the flavors you know and the ingredients you know work together, and then you can start learning about different cuisines. And as you start to recognize the different ingredients that go together, you can start experimenting, and you start realizing, wow, like golden raisins and olives are actually a match made in heaven. They are so delicious together. And really, you can really start creating your own favorite combinations that feel really good to you and that taste really delicious for you. So this is kind of my like Moroccan style bowl I've got going on here. So I still have more ingredients. I could make so many more bowls with you guys today. I have some bacon I didn't use and some apples I didn't use. I would definitely put them together with some chicken and the Brussels sprouts and do like bacon, apple, pecan, chicken, Brussels sprouts together, maybe with the tahini sauce on top. That would be really delicious. But I've been on with you guys for like an hour now or 50 minutes. And I didn't think today was going to be so long. But that's okay. I hope you guys got something out of this. I hope you got some inspiration for creating bowls that are going to be really delicious and satisfying, and you got a little bit of knowledge when it comes to the 3 flavor factors. I want to hear from you guys. What are the ingredients you would put together in your favorite bowl? Do you have a favorite bowl that you already eat, and maybe how you want to mix it up in the next week? For those of you who are interested in learning more about my meal prep method, I talk about 3 different styles of meal prep methods, 3 different styles of meal prep within my method, so you can choose which meal prep style works the best for you and your family, so you're not feeling so overburdened in the kitchen, and you can get dinner on the table fast. And that's just, that link is in my profile. It's just healthymamakris.com/meal prep. Thank you guys so much for being here today. I will be back next week with you guys. I haven't quite decided what I'm going to cook up next week. It won't be as long because we won't have as many ingredients. But I'll let you guys know over in stories. So if you're not already following over in stories, I'm going to announce every week what I'm going to be cooking up later on in the week. So thank you guys so much for being here. I don't think I have any comments right now. No, I'm good. All right, you guys, I'm going to hop off, and I hope you guys all have a beautiful rest of your Thursday.